The United States of America was the greatest country before Trump, and it's the greatest country now after Trump. The white supremacists want to go back. They want to go back to the days when it was legal to own slaves.
You are about to be entertained by the ape, the young man who has become a legend in his own time. You must answer. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Alrighty then, welcome everybody. It's the Ron Kelly Show, featuring Patricia Wilder, who's not here at the moment, and it's on blogswithradio.com and RonKellySoil.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. How's everybody doing? It's Thursday night, 3 days of rain. I can't take it anymore. Where is the sun? Where is the sun, people? This is just, man. I say if you're depending on the sun for power, you probably don't have any power right now. Anyway, everybody, we have our special guest tonight, our very special guest, and so wonderful that she was able to come on, is Eileen Shafer. Did I say that right, Shafer?
Yes, you did. Okay,
Eileen Shafer. Eileen Shafer was the, some of you may recognize her. Eileen Shafer was she was the superintendent of the Paterson school system, the great city of Paterson school system. Miss Shafer was she was the school superintendent. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate your time, Miss Shafer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now everybody so could you give us a little bit of your background? I mean, how you came up to become a superintendent, and were you a superintendent before you came to Paterson?
No, so I started teaching in 1981. I got my bachelor's degree from Montclair State University, and then I went out to Slippery Rock State University in Pennsylvania, got my master's degree, and came back to New Jersey, started teaching in Orange, the city of Orange. And I started teaching there, and I taught for about 8 years. And they asked me to take a position at central office to run a grant. And so I went to central office, and I was running this grant, and really liked being an administrator and being in central office. So 2 years later, the grant ran out, and he said I had to go back to the classroom. And I said, well, I got to find another administrative position because I really like urban education and administration. And that's how I got to Paterson. I went to Paterson in 1992. I became the supervisor of substance awareness. At that time, there was a big push to stop the drug use that was going on with our youth. And so there was policies that were coming out in the education arenas where if kids were under the influence, they could go and get tested, and then we would be able to get them the help that they needed. So I did that in Paterson from 1992 to 1995, and my background is physical education and health. And so they asked me in 95, would I also run the phys ed and health department? And I said yes. So I was running all three of those departments. Really enjoying it. People in Paterson are just wonderful people, really care about the children. And I started moving up, and I next became the director of human resources. And then from there became the assistant superintendent of human resources. And then the assistant superintendent over a cluster of schools. Paterson has 51 schools, and we had 4 assistant superintendents who had about 12, 13 schools that they would oversee. And so I took over a group of schools, and then I was assigned all of the high schools in Paterson. And then from there, I became the deputy superintendent, and I did that for 6 years. And after the deputy, I did the superintendency for 6 years, and I just retired in June of 23.
Wow, that was some ladder.
Yeah, 42 years in education, and I just loved every minute of it. And every position was another challenge. And Paterson was my home. I didn't live there, but I spent more time there. Involved in the community and involved in the children and the staff, and it was really a very rewarding career.
Wow, but that's quite a set of accomplishments, I should say. So you came in after who was the superintendent before you?
Donnie Evans.
Right. He was an appointee because the Paterson school system was taken over by the state because of what they said was low test scores. So how um, do you? I mean, how into that are you? I mean, do you really believe like the state taking over a school system, it helps it get better? Because for a long time there, the Paterson people were saying the Paterson school system and the scores did not improve over the time of the takeover. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Patterson was taken over for over 30 years. And I think once the state took over, a number of elected officials came and went, and even superintendents came and went. We had about 7 or 8 superintendents during that time, and not much was happening. And so I think it's better now because they have a monitoring system called QSAC, where it's an actual monitoring system that helps you make sure that you're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's so that you don't get taken over. Um, and that was also the way that you got out of state control now under Governor Murphy. You had the QSAC monitoring system, and then you also had a transition plan that it was a 2-year transition plan. We got out of state control January 6th of 21, and we did that by uh, being able to successfully hit the targets on the 2-year transition plan. And that included an array of data points that we had to meet. But I'm going to say again that, when you have local control, it's the people in Paterson who decide on the education of the children. And they do that through the elected officials that they vote in as board members. And so for far too long, 30 plus years, the people in the community who know the children the best did not have a voice. And that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think
They want what's best for the kids, and they want to be involved. But when they don't have local control, then your involvement is very, very limited. And so it was really a great day for the city of Paterson on January 6th of 21 that we were given back local control. And now the vested community folks and the parents all have a say about the education of their children.
yeah, and that was one of the big brouhaha. That's one of the things that the parents were really complaining about that because the state of New Jersey had taken over the school system and had run it for so long that they felt like they didn't have a voice, even because uh, the school board was kind of toothless in a way because they maybe more of an advisory role than to make any type of decisions, and that was one of the sticking points, and that's what got people uh, revved up in the city of Paterson. They felt like they didn't have a voice for the education of their children.
Now you're exactly right. The you know they the board of education, even though it was elected by the people, was limited. It was an advisory board. It wasn't a voting board. It was an advisory board. And so therefore the people elected the board members, but they did not have a voice and decision making. Um, they weren't allowed to make decisions and vote for certain decisions, and that really was an issue because again, even though there was a board, it was advisory, and again, the community people and the parents, they just did not have a voice for all those years.
Yeah, and
Generations of children went through the education system, and with their parents never having a say.
right, the 30. I didn't realize it was that long. I mean, I
Yeah.
lived in the city of Paterson I lived there from 2000, actually from 1995 to 2009. I lived in the
Hmm.
city of Paterson. And yeah, and you're right, the state had taken over the school system and you had different mayors coming through.
Hmm.
I think you had Barnes and you had the other guy, I can't think of his name right now. Then you had Barnes again. Then you had, you know,
Joey Torres.
oh yeah, you had Torres. You had um, the guy, the African
Oh,
American
Jeff Jones.
Jeff Jones. Yeah, so they were shot. They were shot. They doing the cha-cha line going through City Hall, and and we still had the same issues. We're joined right now, Eileen, by Pat Wilder. She's my co-host, Patricia Wilder. Hey, Patricia, how are you?
Oh, good evening. How are you? How are you, Ron? How are you, Eileen?
I'm good, and you?
Very good. Thank you so much for being with us. I hear you have a long tenure being the school superintendent previously and have done a lot of wonderful work for our youth. And so that shows that you're really passionate about your work and about our children. And so that is to be commended. So,
Thank you.
first
Thank you.
and foremost, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
There
you.
was a lot. I mean, at one time they were marching down to the Board of Education headquarters with pitchforks and tiki torches at one time. There was a real uprising of folks in the city of Paterson during your tenure, Ms. Shafer. Not to say that you caused it, but people were really um, fired up about what was going on with the school system.
Hmm. Yes, and again, um, who knows the children in a city? Doesn't have to be Patterson, but who knows the children better than the community and the parents? And so, I understand the takeover was because of test scores, financial records weren't where they would like them to be, some personnel records weren't where they would like them to be. So I understand that, but not for 30 plus years.
Mm,
When you took over, you needed to have a plan to let the district go back. And not until Governor Murphy came in was a plan put together. It wasn't just Paterson; it was Newark and Jersey City, so that these folks could get back local control. I just don't think from people from a distance, whether it's Trenton, whether it's Washington, are able to govern a school district the way the people from the community can. They know
I
what the
agree.
need. They know what the needs are. They know what the children's needs are, academic as well as mental health needs, social needs,
Yes.
academic. They know, and so those are the folks that really should be telling us, uh, not somebody from far distance who
Right.
doesn't know,
Boots
who
on the
doesn't.
ground. We need people that have boots on the ground that are
That's right.
interacting with our young people on an ongoing basis, and for their views to be valued um, versus, somewhere afar off. How long have you been working in the school system?
So
40,
42 years in education and 32 in Patterson.
Wow.
and
That's a
added
long
those.
time, right? Putting up with
Yeah.
these knucklehead kids.
So I remember though, I think right in the middle of COVID and trying to get our students needed the in
So where
order.
my memory's going too. So
I'm sorry.
And the laptops.
Yes, they needed the laptops. I just connected that to you. Wasn't you there then?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember you advocating for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I wasn't too uh, you know, thrilled about the laptop thing because well, for one, some of the kids come from compromised homes. And there's people, some of the kids have, especially the minority kids, have unsavory folks, in the house. And I was thinking that most of the laptops would disappear. you know
But I mean, there was
that's what I
huge
was thinking.
help.
That's why I wasn't in agreement with that.
Well, how would we reach our young people then?
They leave the laptops at school. That's what
No,
they
due to COVID, school. So they were doing schooling for that period. They were not in the physical building. They were
Right.
working from home.
Yeah, but how many kids do you actually think were actually doing that? Was there any numbers on that?
Accountability and
Yeah.
responsibility. Kids have to plug in.
Yeah.
They had
Kids.
to keep
Yeah,
their
but
laptops on, their pictures
I get
shown.
that. But was there any numbers on that? I mean, how many were you able to tell? I mean, how many kids were actually working and how many were not?
Yeah, we had those numbers. I couldn't tell you now, but listen, there's pros and cons to this. Um, we we didn't have the money prior to COVID to get everybody a laptop.
Right.
What we did have was we had every high school student had a laptop. And now we were going to start working at the 8th grade and down, getting them laptops. So now we get hit with COVID, and we actually had to run off copy packets to give our elementary children every 10 days because we didn't have the laptops. So then the federal government came in with COVID money, and we were able to buy a laptop for everybody, except during the time that we put our order in, China was having an issue with children labor, and our laptops got caught up in that, and so we could not get the shipment. So Labor Day weekend, we were working like crazy, especially my technology person, uh, and finally got the order. It was very difficult to get the laptops at that time. Nobody had them. And then they were really charging a lot of money. But anyway, we were able to get them. And when we returned in September, everyone had a laptop. But you're absolutely right, Ron. There was many problems that came with this. Some of our kids didn't have Wi-Fi, and they couldn't
Right.
afford Wi-Fi. So we were giving them hotspots. Some of our kids were in basement apartments that was all cement. The hotspot wouldn't even work there, and so that was another problem. And then the environment sometimes, depending on the child, was compromised. Uh,
Yes.
and then you also had maybe 3, 4, 5 kids in one house being taught by different teachers at the same time. So you could imagine
Chaos.
the what's happening in that home when everybody's in a different room trying to learn off the laptop. So there was a lot of problems. And then that sometimes the parents are helping the kids with homework and whatnot, but our parents were not trained to use the laptop, and so that became the kids are trying to do it, and because they didn't have them in school, they weren't that great at it either in the beginning. Parents couldn't help because they didn't know.
Right.
So there was a real learning curve to make sure that everybody had what they needed to have remote learning, and that everything was working like a fine tooth comb. And it took some time to do that.
Yes.
And then we were able to make sure that everybody had what they needed. Unfortunately, COVID really set our kids back. a lot of mental health issues, no socialization
Yes.
for many of our children. If you
Yeah,
didn't
a
have,
lot of isolation.
yes, if you
And
didn't
what
have a sibling, then you really did not have any interaction. Kids were not going outside after school. Everybody was afraid of COVID. We had some deaths in the city. I had one seventh grade child lost both his mother and father. So, there was a lot of tragedy that went along with COVID, and a lot of uh, end results of COVID that are still lingering as we
absolutely.
as we
Absolutely.
speak.
That had to
And
be the most. That had to be the most frustrating job to
yeah,
be a superintendent. I mean, we're gonna find out if you ever went home and cried uh, when we come back.
plenty of times
Yeah,
because
we
I'm a hands-on person. I'd be out in the schools, I'd be seeing the kids, and I couldn't do that. I'm not a remote person, so I was going to work every day. Nobody else was there except my secretary. But it wasn't working for me. Remote was just not working for me. And I know some people, they swear by it, but it's just not me. I'm more of a hands-on. I want to see you. I want to see what you're doing. I want to be able to touch you. And
yeah, I think it depends on the
that
household.
wasn't happening.
I think it depends on how the household is set up. All households are not the same. But we're gonna come back in a minute. We're gonna talk more with Eileen Shafer, who was the former school superintendent for the great city of Paterson, New Jersey. We're back in just a moment with more. It's the Ron Kelly Show, and it's on blogtalkradio.com, the RonKellyShow.com, and all across the social media spectrum. Yes, indeed, I am the man. What a news cycle this is. This guy has got to go. Trump has got to go. George Floyd snuffed out by this police officer who's supposed to be serving and protecting people.
It's the Ron Kelly Show.
Everybody, the Ron. Whoa, what happened? The Ron Kelly Show is brought to you in part by Amicron Porterfield Transportation. Patricia, move to your right, I think. Yeah. Okay, there you go. The Ron Kelly Show is brought to you in part by Amicron Porterfield Transportation. Know what you know for since 1980. We're talking about 44 years, folks. Since 1980, the transportation company of Amicron Porterfield has been providing wonderful, safe transportation to and from your destination, school districts, church trips, you name it, they can do it. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But right now we're talking to Eileen Shafer, who was the school superintendent for the great city of Paterson, New Jersey. And I always say great city, even though Paterson has a lot of problems. But I always say great city. You gotta have some hope.
That's right, because there are greatness that comes out of the city.
Well, I moved, but anyway, I moved to Montclair, and but no place is even safe now. Even the places you thought were like Sunnybrook Farms are turning out to be,
Are you talking about Montclair?
Yeah. I mean, so much going on. People get shot. I mean, it's horrible. But anyway, we're talking to Eileen Shafer, who was the school superintendent for the great city of Paterson, New Jersey, and who withstood the barrage of, because people were really, really getting really nasty.
People look for people to blame, when situations.
They were really nasty at one point. I'm like, wow, she's handling it The people
Well,
who really
resilience, we're women, so
uh,
resilience, we're always persevering in the midst of whatever the adversity is.
Mhm.
the new Gloria Steinem, Patricia, in the person of Patricia Wilder. So,
You
so
know, I just want to add though, when you have your focus, and this is a passion for me. It's not a job, but when you're focused on the children,
Yes.
right? No matter what you do, your focus is the children, their parents, the community, and the staff. Everybody working together. You can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong. And so, as much as people, wanted to scream and shout about whatever they wanted to scream and shout about, we continue to focus on the children in Paterson and the Paterson youth. And, I could go to sleep at night because I knew we were doing everything possible
Yes.
for those kids. We really were, whether it was during COVID, after COVID, before COVID, test scores, athletic championships, whatever it was, equity, walking them through the whole ordeal of George Floyd. That was huge. That was huge. And I was superintendent at that time also. So just being there and being supportive and helping those kids understand what happened, and being able to work with them, so that there was a way to protest. There was a way to participate in any of the marches that we had,
Hmm.
because that's all part of life skills. But
Absolutely. Developing
you
social skills.
right, and you just had to be focused on the kids at all times, no matter whether it was happening in your school or whether it was happening in your community or whether it was happening somewhere else in the country, but
Yes.
it affected everyone.
everybody, shout out to my sis. Shout out to my big sister Sarah Douglas down in Maxton, a little spot on the on the map in North Carolina. Shout out to my sister. Love you, sis. See you soon because it's like 80 degrees down there and we're up here. It's soaking wet and cold. So, and she makes the point to let me know that. Anyway, thank you. Love you, sis. Thank you for listening and thank you for being a great,
So
wonderful.
I have a question. Coming back into the schools after surviving COVID, and you just talked a little bit about the impact of that and some of the challenges that our children are still suffering as a result of going through that time. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges? And I know we see mental health more at an alarming rate, since coming through COVID. But what are some things that you view that is still very challenging, and how do we forge ahead?
Yeah, so we saw early on when kids came back and staff came back as well,
Yes.
that isolation had a major impact on how the children were coming back into schools and getting along with others. Even if we were friends before COVID, but coming back and getting along, and we saw a spike in controversies and altercations when we just came back, and then it leveled off. But that was real. That was real. The socialization, was also real. That kids were having a hard time relating to others. They were having a hard time following rules. And now you also have them where they regressed academically.
Hmm.
And so now you have to meet each child where they are and get them up to par, get them up to grade level because they missed that time being remote. Listen, we had to do remote because of the circumstances,
Yes.
but the number one strategy for teaching and learning is to have a teacher in front of the children physically. That is the number one strategy for teaching and learning. And we didn't have that with remote. You know, the teachers couldn't go up and down the aisle and put their hand on your shoulder or, you know, touch your back or say, you know, keep trying, you're getting there. Uh, none of that were you able to do remote.
How
And
long
that
were we out remotely?
over a year and a half. And that physical contact and that face to face, you know, come on, Pat, try harder. I know you can do it. You know, go up to the board and, you know, show us your work. All of that adds to children learning and children feeling comfortable in the classroom. Even if I make a mistake, even if I write on the board and it's wrong, there's a comfortableness around my peers and the teacher is there.
Yes.
You don't have that with remote. And so I could easily tune out. I mean, I'll be on. You won't know I'm tuned out, but I could be
Right.
tuned out. And so therefore kids really regressed. So between mental health and isolation and socialization and the learning curve, you know, kids came back really at a disadvantage.
Right.
And a lot of work needed to be done to address mindfulness and how to get along with others and where are our kids academically and how can we get them caught up. And so all of that, you know, was something that had to be addressed immediately. And there are still some people, even adults, that are still suffering
Yeah.
from the aftermath of COVID.
Yeah, they call it. I think they call it like long COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said what? But anyway, but yeah, I was a county officer in Paterson for 6 years in Passaic County, and we used to do security at the, you know, when you go to pick up, when the parents go pick up the report cards. Now, when I was a kid, we brought our report cards home, but now you can't do that. Which wasn't that long ago, by the way. And so when we did the security there was so little parents. There was hardly any parents there.
Mm-hmm.
I felt bad for some of the kids because the parents were like absent. Now, I can't say they didn't care or maybe they were at work or whatever. But, you know, me personally, I think that, you know, the school system works when the parents get involved. I mean,
Yeah, it's definitely a collaboration of all parties, you know, so the parent, the staff, you know, the children and the children understanding that we work collectively together, you know, toward their good.
Mm-hmm.
you see, because a lot of parents, you know, well, they said they were working or whatever, you know, and I get it. You know, I work too, but you know, the child, when the parent fails, the child fails.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the research is out there that it's a partnership. You know, it's got to be all hands on deck.
Yes.
You know, to help our kids, but the parents are a big piece, and we really need them to be our partner, not our adversary, our partner. And really, it's incumbent upon the superintendent, as he or she leads a school district, to say, how are we going to approach parents? Are we going to be rude and disrespectful? Well, then that's not a partnership. And my partnerships were always respectful. I'm going to respect you, and you're going to respect me. And listen, that didn't happen right away. I had some parents that were tough as nails, cursed me out, and continue to curse me out. But you know, we started working together, and being a partner. And they, at the end of my career, when I left at my retirement, they got up and told me how I taught them to run a meeting and how I taught them to be on the other side, but still get what I want. You know, how do we work together?
Yeah.
Listen, I want what's best for your child. You want what's best for your child. So we have to work together. And it took time to get through to some of these parents. And, I was not going to be disrespectful. They could be disrespectful to me, but I wasn't going to be disrespectful. And, the biggest accomplishment for me is for them to get up and say that I taught them,
You made a
how to
difference.
operate a meeting when you have people that are adversarial. What do you do in order to compromise or get something accomplished for the children?
That's a
And
good. I'm sorry, but that's such a good thought that you're talking about. Developing social skills and interpersonal skills. So when you're dealing with a parent or parents that are upset, what were some of the tools that you used to bridge the gap?
so I would let them yell and scream, and then I would ask them if they're done. And when they said yes, I said, okay, I didn't interrupt you. So please let me say what I have to say, and don't interrupt me. And I would tell them, I care about your child. I want what's best for your child, but we're not going to be able to get anywhere if you're yelling and I'm yelling and you're cursing me out. I'm not going to curse you out, but we're not going to get anywhere. So let's talk one at a time. Let's be respectful and let's stick to the problem. Let's not go off on tangents all over the place. Let's stick to the problem with your child. And we just started doing that. It took time. I met with them time after time after time, but it got through. It got through. And, I'm a woman of my word. If I tell you I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you. But you're going to have to help me too.
Yeah,
And
together.
they knew that. And then, and if I said I'm going to get back to you, I'll look into this, I get back to you. And I get back to you in a timely manner. And that's what they liked. And so they were willing then to kind of let their guard down and stop and start to communicate with me like a responsible adult. And I'm not faulting them. Listen, these are their children. They want what's best for them. And so if they got to get up and yell and scream because nobody's listening, then that's what they have to do. But it's incumbent upon the superintendent, and it was incumbent upon me to make sure that I addressed the parent needs. Because if I didn't, then I wasn't addressing the children. They
Right.
live in the same house. Something's going on, and I need to help them. And so I looked at that as my job. You're not going to be able to teach a child who's sitting in a classroom that, had some issues the night before at home. You're not going to get anywhere. So we needed to have the children feel that people were listening. We needed to have the parents feel that people were listening and that we were here as a team to help the children and to help the parents so everybody would be successful.
Right. And
Yeah,
so that everyone knows too that they matter.
that's right.
They matter, that their voice matter, that how they feel matters, and that we're going to work collectively to get to, the goal.
But do you think, Eileen, do you think everybody we're talking to, former Paterson school superintendent Eileen Shafer, is joining us tonight? Do you think that running, let's say, the district in Paramus would have been easier than running the district in Paterson?
You know, for me, my whole life was urban education, and that's all I knew. So when you go to Paramus, you have a whole different set of problems. I knew what the urban education problems were, and felt that I was doing everything I possibly could to address them. And I think it's also important uh, that the job in Paramus would be a job. My job in Paterson was a passion. I love that job. I love the community. I mean, you could talk to anybody in that community. I was there at everything I could possibly be at, whether it was a child event, a city event, a parent event. And everybody, people knew me. People knew me. And they knew that, uh, I wasn't a phony. Because listen, I'm going to tell you something. You tell a child you care about them, and I'm going to help you, and you don't get back to them, they will call you out in a minute. And a child knows if you care or you
Yeah.
don't care. And I was not about to add more problems to kids by lying to them or by telling them something and I didn't follow through. I wasn't going to do that. So I don't know whether the Paramus would be easier or not, probably because it's smaller. Um, and sometimes parents are more engaged, sometimes they're not in more affluent communities. But I loved what I did. And I do know, based on what people have told me, that I made a difference. And that's really, I wanted to leave it better than when I got there.
Yeah, I wanted to
And I
talk.
wanted,
I'm sorry. Want to say I wanted to interview you while you were while you were the incumbent, but I said, well, no, because you'd be able to speak more freely if you after you left. Then I would have got a bunch of fifth. What they call it, fifth. Taking the fifth.
take the fifth, yeah.
With the questions I asked, you would have took a lot of.
Yep.
I take the fifth. So
Yep.
I'm glad that we were able to get you on so you can have a
Yep.
conversation with us. Any regrets?
No regrets. I'll tell you a quick story. I got a phone call from is a grown man, and he told me his name, and he said, "I want you to come to a fireman swearing in ceremony. I'm being sworn in as a fireman." And I said, "I'm writing all this down. When is it?" And he said, "You helped me." And I said, "What did I do?" He said, "Well, you met with me and my mother." So I said, "Okay." So I took it all down, and I said, "Okay, I'll come." Well, when I hung up, I started asking around, who knows this kid, and what went on with him. I need to know, how did I help him? I just couldn't remember, because you help a lot of kids. Well, what happened was, this young man went to high school. He was smart, but he could not get up early to get to his first period class, and he just kept failing. And they wanted to send him to an alternative school. And I met with him once, and I told him, "Listen, this is what you need to do. You need to get up. You need to figure this out. Somebody going to call you to get you up. You're going to have an alarm clock. What are you going to do? Because you have to get to that first period class." Well, a couple weeks went by, and I get a call from the principal. It's not working. So I met one more time, and I said to him, "Listen, I'm going to give you a second chance, because I believe in second chances." I said, "But this is it. You have to make this work. You're a senior in high school. You're a grown man, 18 years old. If we had a draft, you'd be out there fighting. You have got to make this work." Well, that was the end of it. I never heard again from him. He graduated. He made it work. But now he was being sworn in to the fire department, and he wanted me to be there because I gave him a second chance. And I say that to say, this is what our kids need. It's not a cookie cutter. Not everybody can be told, set your alarm, get up, and go to school. This didn't work for him. But because he got a second chance, and that was it, and I was very stern that I can't do more after the second chance. I have principals that are looking at me for direction, so I've got to hold the line. And here he was, and I was so proud of him that day after I remembered the story with a little help from different people. And his mother was there, and they made me part of the family. It was a wonderful event, and so he's a Paterson city fireman.
And see, these are the stories that people didn't hear about while you were in office. Because the anger and the frustration, a lot of it misplaced, was put on you. But as the head of the school system, now, if somebody called you up and said, "Hey, Miss Shafer, we need you to be a temporary superintendent," yes or no?
I think I'd have to think about that.
She said, "I have paid my dues."
She dropped right, like,
It would be difficult if it was an urban district, but I'd have to think about that.
Oh, okay. All right. Listen, we don't want to hold you hostage. It was great having you on, and I really did want people to hear from you, after you left, because I monitored, because I lived in Paterson and I was, went to journalism school and all that. So I watched what was going on with the school system. And I think, you were unfairly treated at times, and you were blamed for something that you really didn't have any control over, which is what happens when you're at the head. Like the president isn't responsible for inflation because or gas prices. He's the head of the country, and whatever happens in that country, he's going to get blamed for. Whatever happened in Paterson, you got blamed for. I'm glad I had a chance to speak to you and my audience, to most of whom are from Paterson, to get a chance to hear you, speak about some of the good things you did while you were in your whole career. Like 42 years is
the longevity.
That's a long
tenure is
time. How old was that in about 4 or 5 years old? Anyway.
Of course.
But you know what, too? I think, something I didn't say. It's really a team effort, and I had a great team around me. This was not one person reading the school district, because one person can't lead a large district like that. So I had a great team around me. And again, it's those partnerships of parents and community members, elected officials, everybody who wanted the best for the youth in Paterson.
How large is the school district there?
It's about 51 schools and about 29,000 children, about 5,000 adults.
Now, how could anybody? I mean, you got 51 schools. I didn't know Paterson had that many schools, but you got 51 schools and 30,000 kids. Now, how can you? Unfortunately, it's how it works. Though, whoever's at the head gets.
Oh yeah.
People try to chop their head off when things go sideways, and a lot of people try to do that to you. And like I said, I monitored what was going on. And, I think that some of it was, just was not fair, but that's what happens when you're, when you're
take on certain titles and certain positions, right? It comes
Yeah.
with the territory.
When you're number one, I mean, this is what happens.
Yep. But you know what? When you also get to celebrate the good things.
Yeah.
So I didn't always look at, who's beating me up now or who's blaming me for something. I looked at, a lot of the times I looked at it about the good things that were happening. The Eastside High School boys team wins the state championship in basketball, and the girls win the county. I mean, those are things to celebrate.
Yes.
Or some of our kids are going to Ivy League colleges. That's something to celebrate.
Or becoming firefighters.
Right, or becoming firefighters. All of that is celebratory. The district getting out of state control after 30 plus years.
Ooh,
that was a celebration.
Absolutely. That's a long time to be under lock and key.
Yeah.
And the things that really didn't, there wasn't a marked improvement on the scores either. So,
right.
because some of it is, unfortunately, some of it is political. Sometimes the kids get swept up in the political tornado, and it gets really bad sometimes. Shout out to my cousin George Crawford, my cousin, my sister. I mean, it's a family show, family affair tonight here on the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. Right. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you.
So, is there any before you go? Is there any comments that you'd like to leave for those that you've led the way? Now it's been passed. The torch has been passed. Is there any ending comments to our children or to our educators?
An encapsulation of 42 years of service. Okay, give it a shot, Eileen.
Yeah, I would just want to say to all the staff, thank you, because I'm a motivated go-getter, and probably not always easy to work for, because I want to get things done. I want to provide children opportunities to be successful, and so I want to thank everybody who worked with me because, our successes came from everybody. It wasn't just one person. And did we have some bumps along the way? Absolutely. It comes with the territory. But I like to look at, the glass half full and just say thank you to everyone. To the children in Paterson, they know I love them. I'll always love them. And I want what's best for them and their parents and the community. And to the Board of Education who went from being an advisory board to being a voting board and running the school system now, they're doing a great job. And they're elected by the people, and that's the way it should be. So, it was a great run for me. I have no regrets. I had a wonderful career, lots of accomplishments, probably a couple things, we could have done differently. But all in all, I met wonderful people through those 42 years. People that, I'll be in touch with for a lifetime. People I look up to, people that helped me, and hopefully people that I helped.
Well, once again, we would like to thank you for coming and sharing with us on tonight. And thank you for the wonderful work and for the seeds that you have sown, that are still yielding fruit.
Mm-hmm.
That are still yielding fruit. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It really was nice.
So I kind of feel like I know you now. So if somebody says, "Hey, you know Eileen Shafer?" I'll say, "Yeah, I know her. She's an old friend."
There you go.
Thank you, Eileen. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Keep up the good work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right.
Okay. All right, Patricia. It's what is it? Oh, it's 52 minutes after the hour, Patricia.
Yes, sir.
You know what that means? You don't know.
Let's go. Let's go to the Ron Kelly world.
Yeah, it's off to, me and my ridiculousness. Anyway, we'll take a break and we'll come back with more of this program. It's Ron Kelly's show, and it's on blogtalkradio.com. Yes, indeed, I am the man. What a news cycle this is. This guy has got to go. Trump has got to go. George Floyd snuffed out by this police officer who's supposed to be serving and protecting people.
It's the Ron Kelly Show.
Great interview, great guest, Eileen Shafer, who was the superintendent of the Paterson school system. People would, when I first put this on social media, people were like, "Oh yeah, they're rubbing their hands together," and none of them asked any questions. None of them asked any questions. I wasn't going to allow them to be. I wasn't going to read off the ones that were, or I would have edited the ones that were unsavory. But I would have presented it to her, Patricia. So yeah, anybody, it's 6 minutes before the hour, and we just want to get a little bit more in before we take off and go elsewhere. I thought I had to change that last promo, that last drop that I played, and I thought I had to change that like once Trump lost. But he's still as much in the news. I just don't get it. I just said women, he grabs them by the vaginas and all of this stuff, and just the scum of the earth, and people, I guess scums of the earth as well, still love him. So wow. And and I don't want to, like, sometimes depending on who our guest is, I really don't want to play that because they might be a Trump supporter and they see me saying Trump has got to go. But I thought I was going to have to change that to something else because Trump did go, but he didn't go. He didn't stray.
He went, but he didn't go too far. He is definitely on the news daily.
Yeah. So there's two debates that are coming up. One in July, I think it is, and one in September. So we'll see the battle of the old fogies with Trump and Biden, who's an older fogey.
Well, I'm just saying that you shall get older, so be kind to the older people.
I'm never gonna get old.
I know, in your mind, right?
That's right. I'm never gonna be old. Never. Think old and be old. Oh, my back. Oh, my
But
leg.
elections are coming up, like I believe, like June 4th.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot to say, congratulations to Councilman Luis Velez, who trounced, who trounced Sebastian Mejia. So shout out to Councilman Velez, who was on the Ron Kelly show. See, everybody that comes on the Ron Kelly show is a winner.
Yes.
Quantavia Hilbert lost because she didn't come on the Ron Kelly show. She decided that Ron Kelly show was too small for her, so she didn't come, and she got excoriated by the current incumbent mayor, Dwayne D. Warren. So she got scorched because she didn't come on the Ron Kelly show. Well, we can't help everybody, but some people are going to lose no matter what. They're going to CNN, they're still going to lose. But the local, all the incumbents won, I believe. Nobody was unseated. Even Michael Jackson, who, Michael Jackson won. Alex Mendez, two who've been accused of ballot box stuffing. They both won.
So okay, there were no newcomers then.
There was nobody was up unseated. No, there were no people who were unseated. Everybody who was already in office are still in office, So, and I don't get that. Mendez, I don't get it. Jackson, I don't get it.
But I thought some of them were coming up. Actually, today was the first day of Senator Melendez's court proceedings.
He's going to jail. There's no doubt about it.
I hope not.
No. I mean, they're going to put him in the geriatric ward probably because he's 70 years old. But I think that he's gone because the government doesn't bring a case unless they got you. Because the United States government does not lose when they go after somebody. And
Lamont Gates is here.
Lamont Gates
said no one went out to really vote.
84th. Yeah, because Luis Velez only got like 600 votes, something way around there. No, I know there's more than 600 people living in the fifth ward of the city of Paterson. And also Mejia Sebastian, who was a guest of the Ron Kelly show, but we couldn't give him the Ron Kelly magic. The Kelly Wilder mojo couldn't get it. So he had 162 votes. So really, I mean, that's been the thing in Paterson and in a lot of urban areas where folks just don't care. They just don't go out and vote and say, my vote's not going to matter. And they just do not vote. And, and I can't.
We have to change that. We have to change
I see
that mindset.
Yeah, but I see. Jesus.
No, you realize that people have paved the way for you to come out and be able to cast your vote, your voice. I really think we need to do something to help people to understand their power, and how important it is for them to cast their votes and become more participators versus spectators. Like if you didn't vote, you should have no complaints about anything. Hey, Ron Kelly.
Yeah, somebody was texting me. Anyway, well, you can't blame people for, oh God, it's 8:00. You can't blame people for Patricia for not having any confidence in their vote, and not having any confidence in the process because when Biden has fundraisers, only the rich and famous are there. The same thing with Trump. He had one in Manhattan the other day. Only the rich and famous are there. Only the rich and famous get a seat at the table. And Americans are looking at that. I mean, I know you can't get 300 million people to sit at the table, but it seems like they go around and travel around when it's time to campaign, and then other than that, you never see them. So I do empathize, sympathize with people who have lost faith in the voting process in the United States of America. I feel, I feel it, because the person who lives in the projects, people
has to understand that their vote matters.
Yeah, but the person who lives
have to come out to vote.
But how can you tell somebody their vote matters, Patricia, if they vote every year and they don't, and nothing?
Well, according to the numbers that you just quoted, there wasn't a lot of people coming out to vote.
No, there weren't.
But we're at the top of our hour, so we may have to table this discussion and come back on next week to talk about, to have some dialogue around, voting rights.
Hopefully we'll get Pastor McDuffie or one of the pastors. We're going to jump on those Jesus haters. We're going to get them next to Jesus haters. You should be listening to the show next week. All you Jesus haters, you can come out of your closet and come hang out with me. Ron Kelly Show with Patricia Wilder next Thursday. Jesus haters, show up. Rep your devil. Be Jesus haters, show up and rep your devil right here on the Ron Kelly Show next Thursday, 7 p.m. All right, Patricia. Thank you, Patricia. Prayers to.
We would like to thank everyone for coming out and participating and being a part of the show on tonight. Look forward to seeing you back here on next Thursday.
Yeah, shout out to my sister, Sarah Douglas, my cousin, George Crawford. Shout out to my Banamontes. He's not my cousin, but anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Eileen Shafer, who was the former head honcho, the former superintendent of the city of Paterson
Public
School.
How many schools did she say there is?
51. I'm like, really? Wow. So Newark must have twice as many as that. Hundreds of schools. Anyway, everybody, I like to say it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice in that we may not have it all together, Patricia, but
together we can have it all.
I'm out of here. Time to go smoke a cigar and watch the basketball game. Well, take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye, Patricia.